Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Rough Riders, where every week we talk writing, self-publishing, and making it as an author. This week, I am joined by Clarence Carter, who is author of a whole bunch of books, actually. Normally, I can just say author of this book, but that it would take a little time for me to list all of these. So it's going to be cool to talk to him because not only does he have a lot of books out there, but he's also writing in multiple genres, which I always find really intriguing. So yeah, here's Clarence. How are you doing today, Clarence?
Fantastic. Under other circumstances, I would have dressed better, but it's really hot here in my office. So,
Oh yeah, no, I right now I have the air conditioning on like the lowest setting it could possibly go because it is 100 and what is it today in Vegas? It is it's only 102. It's not that bad today. It was
uh,
118 a couple of days ago.
ugh,
So yeah, so I understand completely. But yeah, so I guess let's start where we always start, and I'm gonna ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
I'm Clarence Carter. I'm a Maine-based author. It's not normally hot here. It's usually really cold here, but today's an exception. Um, I write horror, young adult, and I dabble in a few other genres, but those are my main focuses.
Hmm.
Um, I recently did a suspense thriller novel that just won an award, so I'm
Oh,
really stoked
cool.
about that. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, I definitely want to ask about that because I think that book contests and book awards are so helpful for indie authors. So I definitely want to go into that when we
yeah,
when we get to that book in particular. So you're in Maine,
I
which
am.
I hear Maine and I immediately think Stephen King. So do you set anything in Maine, or like this is such a beautiful landscape that I feel like anything set there is always something visually really pretty and a lot you could talk about there.
Yeah, Maine is aesthetically pleasing. It's a very beautiful state, especially towards the coast. I live a little more inland, so getting to
Mhm.
the coast is a little difficult, but I don't think it's a coincidence that there's a lot of great stories that come out of here and a lot of great writers that come out here because we live in such a remote area and our imaginations go wild. Not to mention there's also like rich folklore and there's a monster story in every town, there's a
Mhm.
ghost story in every town. And also, the elder Mainers here, the ones with the really thick accents that you hear in the movies
Oh
and stuff,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
those
yeah.
guys, they
Mhm.
have the craziest stories. I work with a handful of them, and they are cards. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That's great. Yeah, like I know every place has its little urban legends and everything, but that is definitely a state that I think I've only met a handful of people who are actually from there, and I was always disappointed that they didn't have that accent. And that's always a hard accent for me to trace, by the way,
Yeah.
because I'm like it's like sort of Boston, like sort of like this, and it's just I'm always like, where are you from? But yeah, the people I have met did not speak that way. But yeah, there's like just like you were saying, there's a lot of stories to be told in a state like that, especially when you're in more remote areas where I feel like people are just going to naturally be storytelling
Yeah.
because it's just it's rural, it's remote, like it's storytelling is a thing that you do to
Yeah.
pass time and everything. So that's really cool. So I want to ask about there's so many books that we could go through that I feel like I want to leave it up to you to say which ones we should talk about because this will go on for a while if we tackle everything. So I know you write short stories. I know you've written like full length novels, and then you're also featured in a bunch of anthologies, which is cool as well, and something that I would love to do one day. To like kind of collaborate in that sense. So let's let's start with whatever book you like the most. So I feel like we all have our own favorite one of all of our work that we've done. So where do you want to start?
I'll start with the latest one because
Okay.
that one's the one that's getting all the press right now, getting all the attention. That's the one that won the award. It's my
Hmm.
most recent one, and it's also the one that took me the longest.
Okay.
So, A Girl Named Mishka is my thriller novel. Um, I started writing it, I think, like 7 years ago, and for whatever reason, like the characters and the setting, and just I couldn't get it to work. So I'd pick it up, dabble with it a little bit, move on to another project, pick it up, dabble with it a little bit, and tweak it, and this and that. And I think early this year, I really put it in my head. I'm like, it's done. We're finishing it. this is it. This is the final stop. So I really dedicated myself to finishing it this year, and thankfully I did. And I put it out, and thus far the response has been pretty good. I'm not getting as many reviews as I'd like, but that's pretty common for us.
That is, yeah, oh my God. That is like the thing that drives me crazy more than anything else because I've gotten, this is what sucks. I've gotten plenty of people to actually read my novels, like, but you wouldn't know it from the number of reviews. And I've always gotten good feedback, not universally good, which is totally fine with me. I don't give a shit, but it's,
Sure.
but like, with my sci-fi novel, at least, I've sold like probably around 1,000 of them since I published it, which is, you know, sounds great, but then when you can only get like 50 something people to actually write them, it drives me nuts because I'm like, it looks like it's no one has paid attention to it at all. And I still to this day have no advice for people on how to actually get people to write reviews. I only just found out about this ARC reader thing, which I feel like I'm like super ignorant of a lot of things, and that is clearly one of them. But that seems like a reasonable way to get people to actually review it from the authors that I've talked to. But still, I understand the plight of wishing that you had more reviews. But that book though, clearly there you did something right with it if you won an award
Yeah.
for it, and you definitely, you know, I know you were working on it sort of on and off for a little bit, but once you did start really dedicating yourself, you definitely did a good job. So so let me ask you about the award itself. So what contest did you enter for that
It
book?
was called it was called the Regal Summit Award. Uh,
Okay,
so you get a handful of awards per category, and I think there were 4 or 5 of us in the suspense thriller category.
nice.
And
So you get the opportunity to like then say everywhere that you actually won this, which I feel like is a great accolade to give yourself because as an indie author, it is really hard to convince people that your stuff is worth reading if you didn't have a publishing company gatekeeping it and saying that this is worthy of publishing. So having something like that is definitely a big help.
yeah,
So what was like, do you see how long ago actually was that released, that book?
earlier this year, I think it came out in April.
Hmm. Okay. Like, do you see, this is something that I've asked other people when it comes to book contests like that. Did you see that it made a significant difference in terms of people actually buying that compared to your other work that didn't have any sort of award or finalist status attached to it? Or is it kind of largely been like, this is just a really cool thing that you'd be able to say about yourself as an author that you won this?
Not yet, but I only just found out a couple of days ago, and
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I have
it's
yet to
new.
put
Cool.
I've yet to put the seal on the cover.
Hmm.
So I think after the seal is on the cover, it's gonna be a game changer. But
Yeah. It
I,
definitely helped me because I didn't win. I'm still bitter about it, but I was a finalist the National Indie Excellence Awards for my general fiction book, Devils in Sunday Hats, which I personally think is the better of my books that I've written, but that is also the one that I have the least reviews for because I did almost nothing in terms of marketing it after. Because I'm that asshole who's like sitting here saying like, oh, when you self-publish, you have to do all the marketing yourself, and then I like didn't bother to do anything for my own. I'm just sitting here talking about it. So,
yep.
but you know, that was it was helpful for me, even if I didn't really market too much. It did sales were easier after I added that seal to the cover. I ended up moving it to the back cover because when I revised my front cover and everything, just because the layout, it didn't really, there wasn't any really good place to put it. But I moved to the back cover, but I still have in the product description and everything, it says like very bold at the very beginning, like finalist for the 12th annual or whatever annual National Indie Excellence Awards it was. So it was helpful to be able to say that. I definitely saw more people checking it out after I put that on there than before, like for the few ad campaigns that I had actually run for it way back when. So that's really
Nice.
cool though, that you get to say that you were an author. So is that contest the same as a lot of other ones where some of them you have to actually physically ship your book to them and other ones they let you upload it? Did you have to print copies or were you able to just upload like an ebook version?
No, I just uploaded it.
Okay, yeah, that's so much easier. Like
Yeah.
so much easier. So the one thing that I wish about those contests though is that because I put a video out about this not super long ago where I was just talking about some of the bigger contests you could enter as an indie author, but they don't always tell you how many people are actually submitting their books into it, and I always
Mhm.
want to know of like I feel like if it says national in the name, it's probably like a good number of people, but it's just always I'm always like, oh, I wish I knew how many people I was competing against. But that's awesome that you have an award for that one. So I know that from reading the description of A Girl Named Mishka that it's got a Russian mob theme to it, which
Mhm.
is awesome. As someone who's this is just stereotype, but I've got some sketchy people in my Italian family, so I know I know a little bit about that stuff. Thank God I don't have any contact with any of them, but that's always a fun sort of theme, any sort of mob or mafia stuff. So tell me a little bit about the plot of that book, because thrillers are cool, and then especially mob ones.
Okay. So Mishka is an orphan. She gets abandoned by her mother, who is a prostitute who had an affair with a Russian mob boss. And the mob boss doesn't want the secret to get out, so he tries to get the mother and the daughter killed. Succeeds at killing the mother, does not succeed at killing the daughter. Daughter goes into the adoption system, gets shipped off to America to live with an uncle. From there, she's kidnapped by a serial killer truck driver.
Okay.
And those
Okay.
and those things are connected somehow.
Hmm.
I don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah. Anything crime, I've said this a couple of times so far, and I feel like I repeat myself a lot, but this is the first time you're hearing me say it. But I feel like um, crime, just the crime as like the subject matter of a book or a podcast or a movie or a TV show or anything is very, very popular right now. And I think that tends to be a little bit of an easier sell than some other maybe subject matters. So people are really, really into that right now.
Yeah.
So I think that will appeal to people who are listening or watching. There will obviously be a link to it in the description, but anyone who's into crime and thrillers, that would be an interesting thing for you to read, especially again, I love mob themed stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just always fun. So how long did that? I know you're saying you worked on it on and off. So how long, like overall, would you say it took you to write that one? And I guess actually also, how long does it on average take you to write a
Mm.
novel or a collection of short stories? Because everyone is so different when it comes
Every
to how long it takes you. Like it takes me a very long time,
yeah.
which is largely just because I have so many other things going on that I don't have a lot of time to invest in it. But how for you, what does that look like?
So Mishka was on and off for 7 years, which is unusual for me. I can usually turn one over in about a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty normal. The collections of short stories are a little different. I just sort of write a bunch of short stories for the market, anthologies, magazines, and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
then some of them I get the rights back to, and I throw them in a collection, or some of them I don't get the rights
Mm-hmm.
back to, and I can't sell for whatever reason. Put them
Yeah.
in a collection and put
I
them up.
never th- I never thought about that before. So just because I've never looked into being part of an anthology or how you'd even go about that. So could you tell me a little bit about that whole process? Because again, that's something I'm not really familiar with. And I do know one other author who was part of a horror anthology, but I don't know if we had a chance to really get into how he even got into that in the first place. So how does that work? Like, I didn't even think about the fact that you may not necessarily be able to repurpose that later as a story. So how do you get involved in that?
Sure. So there are like publishing companies that are looking for short stories, and they usually have like themes that they're
Mm-hmm.
looking for. They're looking for like horror specifically. They're looking for like Halloween themed, or I did one that was clown themed.
Okay.
That hasn't come out yet. Uh, we did one that was like cryptid based,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So
That sounds fun.
usually
I love
like
that. I love that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
me too.
Yeah.
Um, there's like a handful of sites that you can go to that will help you get, like closer to like Horror Tree is a good one. I
Mm-hmm.
go through that a lot. There's like the submission grinder. Duotrope. And there's also like a couple of Facebook groups that are specific for like anthology submissions.
Okay.
Yeah, so I use that stuff to get a little closer. Um, and when you obviously you're like competing for a spot, so the theme will be like, we're looking for. I'm going to use Halloween theme. It's not a great theme, but Halloween themed short stories under 7,000 words,
Hmm.
and then you'll write your story, you'll submit it, and you'll be against whatever 100 other authors, maybe more, maybe less, really depends. And then they go through a vetting process where they, you know, pick the best ones that fit the theme, and then eventually they say, "Hey, you're accepted. You get paid for it." Admittedly, the short story market doesn't pay very well,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So after you've submitted it and they say like, oh, we like this one, we're going to use it, do
Mhm.
they make any sort of or recommend any sort of edits to it later, or does it have to be in like its final form when you submit it?
Make it as clean as you can, but usually there is another round of edits,
Hmm.
and depending on your level of skill, really determines
Yeah.
how bad the edits are.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So then they'll tell you like, oh, you do retain the rights to this, or do you like surrender rights to that story for some of them?
So most of the time, you'll surrender rights for about a year.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So like if you wanted later down the line to write your own collection of short stories and put it
mhm,
together, you could use that again
yeah,
in that. Okay. Do you have to like say, oh, this was part of an anthology and like credit that, or you could just go ahead and use it?
you don't have to. I think it's kind of common courtesy to do that, but
Yeah.
you don't have to.
Hmm.
And there are also like situations in which you can reach out to the publisher, like if it's been quiet for 9 months and you say, "Hey, I was planning on putting this collection together. Do you mind if I have the rights back?" Most of the time, they'll just give it to you,
Hmm.
because anthologies and the short stories specifically have kind of a lifespan. Like the anthology is popular for the first, whatever, 3 months, and then
Yeah.
it just kind of goes away, unfortunately.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I've gotten the rights back early from one or two.
Okay, cool. And then you were able to use it again. So I know one of your collection of short stories is called The Rejected Ones.
Yeah.
So what's when you put together a collection of short stories like that and release it, how do you because I've thought about doing this before, but I don't write a lot of short stories. It'll probably be a while before I have enough to actually put them together and publish it. But um do you have them unified by like a certain theme, or is it like this is just a whole bunch of different ones that could kind of appeal to multiple interests?
Um, I don't usually do mine in a theme. I do kind of do them in a way that makes sense. Like, you want your most engaging ones up front, and you want
Hmm.
the ones that'll resonate with the reader for a long time towards the end. So
Yeah.
that's the way that I do it. I kind of do like the engaging ones up front, and then the
Hmm.
long-term ones, the burning ones at the
Okay.
end, so that you'll try to, keep your reader around. But I will gladly talk about the rejected ones real
Yes,
quick.
please do. It doesn't
So
even have to be real quick. Make it as long as you want.
this I've got it right here. So this is the rejected ones.
Hmm.
This is a paper mache, whatever it's called, origami
Yeah.
people tweet, and you can't really see it on here, but they're made out of rejection letters.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cool.
on the back, I also have an origami swan that is also made out of that is also made out of
I
rejection letters. So
like that.
So
I like that a lot.
over the course of the last decade, I've had these 10 short stories that I just could not sell for whatever reason. And I don't think that it's because they were bad. Like there's, themes that it kind of missed, didn't really fit in.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
also kind of strange, and I've always
There's a
had
lot of reasons why something could be rejected, and it's not that the
yeah,
writing is bad. Yeah.
exactly. It's not that they don't have merit. It's just that I couldn't find the theme, I couldn't find the right house for it, whatever.
Hmm.
So I put them all in this collection. I called it the rejected ones, ha ha
Hmm.
ha. I put
Yep.
the rejection letters on it, and ironically, it's my bestseller.
Well, it's a fun concept. I really like that because that is especially for um, like the indie authors that I've interacted with, people who have actually tried to query and go the traditional route, and then just faced a lot of rejection, and then eventually we're just like, you know, screw this, I want to get this story out there, I'm tired of
Mhm.
waiting, and decided to self-publish. Like, that is something that those people will certainly understand. So that's a really fun idea to collect it, put them together that way, where it's all rejected stories. So when you have a collection of these short stories, do you always have one that is sort of like, this is the one that is your favorite out of them, or are you kind of egalitarian about your work and you're like, oh, well, I like all of it equally? Like, how someone will claim they don't have any favorite children, they love all their children equally.
Yeah.
Are you that type of writer, or do you have one that you're like, yeah, this is the one I like the most?
There are definitely some that stand out more than others. I don't want to say that there are some that are forgettable necessarily, but there are some you kind of shrug. You're like, all right, it was
Mhm.
not terrible. But then there are some you're like, I was on fire when I wrote this.
Yeah,
Like, the
I
synapses were going.
I feel that way, and I always have a hard time articulating it. But what you just said is really what I mean. But I have, like, for my sci-fi novel, I have a whole collection of like short stories, somewhere between short story and novella, for the kind of accompany it, like a series of those that are just kind of a way to like expand the universe a little bit,
Mhm.
and also because it takes me so long to write a book that it's like, okay, well, at least the readers will have this to read in the meantime. But
Sure.
with that series, like, some of them, like you just said, you don't want to say it's like forgettable, but some of them are definitely, they add less than other ones do. And I do have those ones where I reread it and I'm like, yeah, damn, like that was a good one. And then other ones where I'm like, it got the job done, but maybe it wasn't really like what I would have hoped for. But there it was, like looking back, like in retrospect. But so I understand what you mean by that. And like, you don't want to dismiss any of your work, but you want to stand by it. But at the same time, you can recognize that certain ones maybe you did a little bit better with than other ones. So I get that entirely. So the rejected ones, since it is, you were saying that you don't necessarily have a theme that unifies them other than the fact that they were all rejected. Are those like multiple, I guess, like multiple genres for the stories? Like, are they the way that all of your books are not necessarily all in the same genre?
No, those ones are all pretty much horror stories. There
Hmm.
are some separate subgenre stuff, but most of them just
Hmm.
straight horror.
Okay. Well, you had another short story collection that was horror, which is called Shadows and Keyholes.
Correct.
So, and I love horror. So, what kind of, I always ask, I haven't had too many horror authors on here, but of the ones that I have had, I always ask, what kind of horror do you really gravitate towards? Some people like supernatural, some people like a little bit more real world. So, pretty. So what do you tend to like when it comes to horror?
I like the cryptid stuff quite a bit.
Hmm.
I've written that a handful of times. I really like mm, psychological horror as well.
Hmm.
I've written a short story about a woman descending into madness on a train that I thought came out exceptionally well.
Okay. Yeah, like that's, people use the term like elevated horror, which I'm still not really sure how that's defined. But I tend to think of like psychological stuff is probably more along those lines, where you're going a little bit deeper than just monsters or ghosts or demons
Yeah.
or something. So that's pretty cool. With so that's horror, but then you have a book called Damn Ernie, which sounds like it's kind of humor. And then, or am I wrong? Is that what it is? It sounded like it was like more of a comical one to me.
That's what it is.
Okay. So I love that you are writing in such like a diverse number of genres, because I know I've read this online, on like the writing subreddits, which I never really engage with anyone on. I'm just reading them and then sometimes like rolling my eyes at stuff. But this is one of the things I roll my eyes at, where people are, they'll advocate that if you're an author, that you should only write one genre, and that's what you need to be known for, and that somehow this is going to make you more marketable if you were like, oh, I'm known for this. So I personally disagree with that, and I think that you, in all likelihood, disagree with that as well. So like, I just feel like there's no reason to limit yourself and your own interests as an author just for the sake of like an audience maybe knowing you for one thing. So,
Mhm.
but of all of the different things that you have written, does one seem to do better in terms of sellability than another? Like, oh, my horror ones maybe do best, or my like thriller ones. Like, how has that been for you?
The collections of horror stories seem to be the most popular.
Hmm.
'Cause-
Okay.
and
Yeah.
when somebody buys one, they're apt to buy the other. So
Hmm.
it's not uncommon for me to sell them as a pair.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's yeah. So can you so when you're selling them, do you mean like you actually have it where it's paired when people buy it, or do you mean like people tend to buy the other one after buying the first one?
So yeah, that if we're talking online sales, people
Hmm.
will buy one and then at some point buy another.
Hmm.
But I do a lot of events, a lot of author events, a lot of
Oh,
whatever.
cool.
And
Okay.
yeah, so when I set up my table, and in the front there will be Shadows and Keyholes, The Rejected Ones, and Mishka, and any one of those three covers just grab people, and those three seem to be more popular than Dan Murney, The Blacktop Kings, or The Latchkey Kids.
Hmm. Well, I definitely want to ask you about author events like that because that is something that I've never done.
Mhm.
And just I've thought about it, but I wouldn't even know where to get started with that. I've talked to two other authors so far that do some like local events where speakers set up a table, but and they kind of told me how that worked for them. But let me ask you about that experience because I think that a lot of people who watch these videos, that's sort of a dream that they would
Mhm.
have, that they could actually get that kind of attention and exposure. So how does that work? Like, how do you even get started with that?
Well, it's not easy. You have to do some research. Sometimes you can go through like local bookstores or local libraries and stuff like that. I have found a few events that way, but I do a lot of stuff that's not traditionally book events as well. So a lot of like craft fairs, artisan markets, stuff like that. Those
Okay.
are a lot more common. So I'm like I said, I'm up in Maine and the book community is surprisingly small here.
Hmm.
So I also do like conventions. So I did like an anime convention not that long ago. Even though my books are not anime themed, I still attended and I still did okay. Not great, but um, research, find your community, and also like network a lot. So
Hmm.
while you're at these events, ask, hey, whoever's hosting this, do they do other things too? And you can slowly start to grow that way. And you'll start to meet more people and you'll talk to the other vendors there. They'll say, hey, is there an event around here that you do? They'll be like, oh, yeah, in February we do this and that. Or, oh, yeah, in March we're back here. Same thing.
Hmm.
And you just sort of grow the network a little bit and pick up more steam as you go. So this year is the year that we are hitting it hard. So I write with a friend of, well, I don't write with him, but I do these events with him. His name is
Hmm.
Sean, and he and I are just hitting them hard this year. Like I think we've done maybe 15 so far, and we've still got
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah, we've
Wow.
been going we've been going crazy.
Hmm.
Um, and we still have maybe 10, 12 more remainder of the
That's
year.
crazy. Wow,
Yeah,
you are busy.
yeah.
That kind of networking is so important, I feel like, as a indie author, and I feel like so many people are uncomfortable doing
Hmm.
it. I'm certainly not super comfortable with networking.
Hmm.
I'm great with networking when it comes to my actual like full-time job and stuff like that, but I'm not good when it comes to like my own writing.
Hmm.
And to be like perfectly honest, the only real networking I have done since putting any of my books out has been in the last maybe couple of months
Hmm.
for doing my stuff on TikTok. Before that, I never really interacted with a lot of people. I would just post stuff and be like, "Well, I hope people see it," and that was all. So I'm seeing now, and I mean, I was able to consciously recognize this beforehand. I just never did anything about it, but seeing now like how important that really is. So a lot of people will shy away from it though because it is sort of it can be kind of awkward to try to like get yourself out there in that way, especially if you're not used to dealing with people in that sense and everything. So I really commend you for putting in the effort to actually do all of these events, because that's a lot. Like that's a lot. And can I ask if, so maybe not for all of them, but do you have to, like, if you set up a table at some sort of like event or a convention or something, do you have to pay anything to set up a table? Because I had looked into, very briefly, had looked into like Comic-Con and stuff like that, which obviously is a really big one. So I would expect that you have to pay something, but I don't know if it works that way for smaller things.
Usually, yeah. Usually you either buy the table or buy the space.
Mm-hmm.
It can range. I mean, it depends on, how big the event is. Sometimes you get a good deal and you'll do a table for like $35. It's not
Oh, it's
bad for
not
a
bad.
single
Yeah.
day. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you do bigger events where you're there for 3 days and it costs 200.
Mm-hmm.
It really
Even
depends.
that's still not that bad
No.
for like a 3 day thing. So
Yeah.
so do you just get to, like, people just come up to you and just ask you questions and you just get to interact with people? Like that must be like, are you more of an extroverted kind of person where you feel comfortable with talking to strangers that way, or no? Okay. Then then I really do commend you because that's a lot of talking.
Yeah. I know it's hard to tell. We don't really know each other that well, but I'm actually very
Mhm.
shy. So,
Okay.
but I try to go into these events with this mindset like you're putting on a mask, you're here to engage with people, so this is what you're here for. And
Hmm.
you're right, it is terrifying. Like a lot of people are afraid and they can't get over that slump. And quite frankly, the fear of it for me never really goes away, but I just know how to minimize it.
Hmm.
Like I'm going in, I'm gonna say hello to people. They're just people. They're make
Yeah.
mistakes. They put pants on one leg at a time, just like us. And every once in a while, some of them are really nice. Some of them are a little, but
Standoffish. Yeah. Hmm.
most of the time, they're just in the middle. They're not
Hmm.
in love with you. They're not. You're just sort of there. And a lot of them ignore you. And some people take it personally, but I don't.
Hmm.
Especially in like really busy events, there are 100 other tables. Like if mine doesn't catch your eye, then that's
Hmm.
fine. If you're not into books, I get it. Not everybody reads, but the ones that are there to find authors, local authors, will find you. Like
Hmm.
that's what they're looking for, and you will know them right away.
Yeah.
Like they will be smiling. You will see them 35 feet away, smiling, looking right at you, just coming in
Hmm.
hot. They'll come right
Yeah.
up to your table and they'll start flipping right through, asking you questions, and they're excited. And you're like,
Hmm.
these are my people right here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can really feed off of that energy, or I feel like once you see that they are interested, it just makes it a lot easier to talk about things because you don't have to be as worried that you're trying to sell something to someone who just doesn't care. Um, it definitely takes some getting used to deal
Yeah.
with people in that way. And this is like, I'm not I'm not shy and I'm not introverted at all. I mean, I guess I am. I'm like a mix of someone who's very comfortable with talking to strangers and then also like doesn't really enjoy it at the same time. But I do it every day for work. My day job, I'm like sort of in, it's sort of sales now. But I don't have any trouble at all with talking to a perfect stranger in an exam room and convincing them to get like 5 syringes of subdermal filler and Botox injected into their face, and then get them to do laser, and then get them to buy like $1,000 worth of skincare products. Like for whatever reason, that's not hard for me. But
Mhm.
if you were to ask me sell your book to them, I'd sound like an idiot. Like there's no way I'd be able to do it. And I've met a lot of authors so far who, when you're asked to talk about your book, you almost freeze up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you kind of go in multiple directions and you're a little bit jumbled when you're describing it. And I'm still like that.
That
And that's something you really need to learn to work through.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So, yes, you do get jumbled and you do get but after you've done a few of these events, one or two, you sort of get this rhythm, this like pitch, and you just
Hmm.
get it down and you can play with it, you can change the words, you can, but it just sort of builds in your mind and you just sort of have it. And when they're looking at one specific book, you're like, "Oh, well, funny story about this one. I actually had all of these stories rejected, and
Hmm.
hilariously enough, there's an origami swan made of rejection letters on the back." And people love little anecdotes like that.
Hmm.
And you can riff, you know, and over time, you just sort of get these pitches down. You sort of see what you read their body language, and you can sort of figure out what they're into, and also just have a conversation with them. It's really, people are willing to talk to you. Just, they've come
Yeah.
to you, they've come up to your table. Just have a conversation. Hey, what do you like? Do you like sci-fi? Well, I'm a sci-fi author, or
Hmm.
I'm a horror author, and sort of lean them into the direction that they're already looking for.
Yeah.
And you're letting them do half the work.
Hmm. Yeah,
They
well, that's exactly what I was just saying about like the sales element of my own job. Like
Yep,
everything, like I have a pitch that I sort of tweak to the person depending on like how I'm reading them and what I
mhm,
can tell is important to them or what their objections might be. And you just do it kind of without thinking when you've done it enough that you sort of have a pitch in mind that you can sort of tailor to every person that you're dealing with, and then just have a conversation with them.
yeah,
Like when you can like bring sort of personal anecdotes into it, it makes it a lot easier
yeah.
to get someone to relate and actually want to buy this product. So it just sucks that I feel like I still haven't really been able to pin down how to translate that into a book. But yeah, when it comes to cosmetic injections, I could do that all day and not have any issues. But so that's great though that you are able to speak to people in this way, and that over time you have really learned to be more comfortable with it, especially since you have like how many more this year that you're
Oh,
going to be doing. You're like by the end of this year, you're like an expert on all of this. Like you could probably talk about this stuff in your sleep and not
pretty
even have to
much.
think about it anymore. So is all of this stuff sort of local, or do you have to travel a little bit farther for any of these?
Yeah. So I've done events all over the state. The
Okay.
furthest one, we did one that was in Caribou, which is very, very far from me. It's like 4 hours. It's almost in
Oh
Canada.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you like you really went out there and made a trip out of it.
Yeah. And later this year, I'm doing one in New Hampshire.
Hmm. Oh, cool. Cool. So do you are you actually selling copies of your books there that you like, so do you print them like as author copies where you're getting it basically just at cost
Hmm.
and then you're able to sell it? Do you price it at what your books are priced at on Amazon, or is it priced differently?
No, I usually just match because I'm always afraid that somebody's gonna be like, oh, well, it's cheaper on Amazon. I'll just buy it
Hmm.
there. So I sell it at the same price, and because you're getting it cheap because it's an author copy, you're
Hmm.
you're making profit anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So why not? Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Cool. How many do you usually bring with you? Like when you do these?
I usually have 10 on hand of each of
Hmm.
the like really popular ones, and then five of the less popular ones. And then I just keep an eye on my inventory. When it starts getting low, I'll just re-up them.
Hmm.
I don't
Okay.
just I don't wait for everything to sell out. That's a terrible idea. You don't want to go into a con empty-handed.
Yeah, no, no, that is a terrible idea. And I'll tell you, I'm not even doing events like that, and I'm out of physical copies at my house,
Yeah.
which tend to be useful for me. And now I'm like, oh God, I have to order more because so now that I'm living in Vegas, I'm dealing
Mm,
with a lot of entertainment people. When I was living in DC, all of my patients were like not all of them, but a lot of them were like I met a lot of really big senators, met a lot of really big like representatives and federal
mm,
judges and stuff like that. All the people that don't want to admit to you that they've been getting some work done. But I met a lot of those people, so they weren't particularly useful for me when it came to trying to get my book out there. But now I'm meeting a lot of entertainment people,
mhm,
and it's very different. And now I'm having people actually ask for it, like, oh, could you like could I read through a copy of it and like kind of push
mhm.
it along, and I'm like shit, now I have to go like actually print some. So I know what that's like when you're like, oh crap, I need a copy and I don't have one. So
Yeah.
this is also the first place I've ever worked where they allowed me to openly talk about this stuff, and they were like, oh yeah, if you want to pitch it to people, go right ahead, it's not inappropriate. I'm like, okay, sounds good. So
Sounds great.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of cool. So hopefully that'll actually pan out into something because I have people flying in from LA and everything to actually
Mhm.
come to our clinic. So maybe I'll meet like the right person one day where like it finally blows up. But
Yeah.
yeah. So one other book of yours that was mentioned pretty prominently on your website and in your author bio was The Latchkey Kids.
Hmm.
Like when you were saying like author of such and such, that was one of the ones that you mentioned. So so could you tell me a little bit about that one and what genre that one's in?
So,
Cool.
you know how we were talking about having an anecdote that goes along with the story. So for that one, I honestly don't pitch that one very often. It just doesn't come up. For whatever reason, I don't know. It's not very popular, but it's a young adult novel that I think has a lot of heart. I think the term young adult novels kind of have this reputation that turns people away for whatever
Hmm.
reason. But weirdly enough, more adults read young adult novels than young adults,
Yeah.
which to get
Gotten to
into.
the point where I actually want to ask you when it says young adult fiction,
Mhm.
does it mean that the character group is young adults, or does it mean that the intended reader, like audience, is young adults? Because what you just said is absolutely true,
Mhm.
that a lot of these young adult novels end up being read by like people who are much older than young adults. So like I know tons of people who read The Hunger Games, which is
Mhm.
supposed to be young adult, but you know they're much older than that. Or
Yeah.
even Harry Potter,
Yep.
like a kid, like you know, kids book. People are reading that.
Hmm.
So so
It's it's the
is
character group.
okay. I
Yeah.
always thought I wasn't sure. I was like, is it the audience or is it the characters? I never was really sure.
It's the character group. It's the characters that are young adults, and usually it involves like growing up and teenage angst and stuff like that, like
Hmm.
what teenagers go through. So my quick anecdote when people are eyeballing the Latchkey Kids is this novel is based off of a dream that I had where my brother tried to convince my family that they'd be better off without me, and
Hmm.
he kidnaps me and ties me up in the basement, and that's
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was based off of a dream that I
Hmm.
had. And it even says in the introduction that it was based off of a dream that I had.
Hmm.
And it's an interesting concept, and I wish it
It's a
did
good
better.
source of inspiration for
Yeah,
something, especially since that's kind of that's the darker dream.
it is. It absolutely is kind of a morbid dream, but no, it happened that way. And I was like, the second I woke up, I was like, oh, I know where this is
Yeah,
going.
like I
And
gotta write this. You gotta
yeah,
get this out of your head.
yeah.
So
The,
yeah.
the second I woke up, I knew it was going to be a novel. And
Hmm.
I did a crash course on it and I sat on it for a long time. I think I sat on that book for 2 or 3 years before I finally like pushed it out. Over the last, I don't know, like 3 years or so, I went through this like phase where I was convinced by my friend Sean. He's like, "You are sitting on a bunch of books. Fucking turn them out.
Hmm.
Put them on shelves. Get them done." So that's where the Latchkey Kids came out. Dan Marini came out. The Rejected Ones came out. He just pushed me to,
Hmm.
finally send a lot of these out to the world, and I'm
Sometimes you need
grateful that
that
he did.
person who's gonna push you. Because I know I'm someone who doesn't always have a lot of self motivation.
Yeah.
I would describe myself as naturally lazy,
Hmm.
and I do need someone to light a fire under my ass sometimes to actually get stuff done. So
Hmm.
having someone, especially when it comes to creative endeavors, where you can sort of lose momentum, or even just your own confidence. I don't know if this is true for you, but like at least for me, like my own like confidence may suffer depending on sort of I have a tendency to go through like sort of cyclical moods and stuff. So when I'm in sort of a lower one, I don't want to do anything. I'm just sort of like I suck. Like this is all a waste of time. And then you have someone there who's actually can be sort of a cheerleader for you and
Yeah.
push you to do things that is so helpful.
Yeah.
And then also, especially when you're self-publishing and you don't have any deadlines set other than ones that you set for yourself,
Yeah.
where you could start moving the goalpost a little bit when it's convenient for you.
Yeah.
It's good to have someone who can be like, no, you got to do it. Like you can't just keep pushing it down the line. So that's great that you have someone who does that for you. So
My
and you sound like you were on a roll. You got you to do that many different things.
Yeah. My
So
issue is not laziness. It's the critic inside my head that I'm always like, it's not really where I want it to be. It's not whatever. And then more times than not, it's better than I think it is. And
mhm.
then when I send it off to the editor or beta readers or whatever, they're like, how long were you sitting on this for? And why didn't you give it
You're
to me
like, why
sooner?
did you wait so long?
Yeah. I find that happens a lot, and
Hmm.
I'm trying to get better. And I have what I call the archives, and I have like a bunch of work that I've done over the last how many ever years it's been, 13 years or so. And every once in a while I'll paw through them and I'll find a short story that has a lot of potential and I'll just touch it up and I'll fling it out and I'll,
Yeah.
hope for
I
the
had
best.
someone describe it as their graveyard of like, because I have something like that where I have a folder of in my Google Drive of like stories I've abandoned, and like I occasionally will go through it. I'm like, yeah, I feel like maybe I could do something with that one day. So that's like a good place to go when you maybe don't have any new ideas at the time, but you could kind of rediscover something that you had put aside when maybe you shouldn't have. So, or maybe it just wasn't the right time
Yeah,
at the time
that's
to
the way
write
I
it.
see it.
Yeah.
There isn't a bad story. There's a bad timing, and well, maybe there are some bad stories, but I like to believe that the ideas are usually good. The execution isn't always good.
That's the thing that can kind of make or break it, is like, 'cause there's so many. I feel like you could make almost anything into a story, and if you can find a way to present it right and execute it correctly, then like anything can really appeal people, or at least entertain them. And it is the execution that really matters more, I think. So I agree with you there. So we're a little bit we're getting towards the time limit that I'm setting for all of us. So I'm going to start directing everyone to go check out your books. So normally I would list them out in their entirety, but I'm going to stick to a couple of focused ones because you are a very productive writer and you've got a lot out there. So there's definitely going to be something that appeals to someone. So we've got The Rejected Ones, the collection of short stories, A Girl Named Mishka, which is a sort of a mob story thriller, which sounds really cool to me. And then we've got The Latchkey Kids, based on a dream, and then Shadows and Keyholes, which are more short stories, and these ones are horror. So everyone, I'm going to put the links to all of these books in the description. There's going to be a lot of them down there, so go check out all of them and find one that you like, because I think you will find one that you like. I'll also link to all of Clarence's social media, so please go ahead and follow him there. And the whole point of this channel is to support indie authors, and please go do that, because even just following someone on social media, that in itself is just gonna take them one step closer to actually being widely known. So please go do that. And thank you so much, Clarence, for being here today. I really appreciate it, and it is cool to talk to someone who doesn't really limit themselves to one genre, and just writes wherever your imagination takes you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So everyone, stay tuned for next week's episode. Make sure you subscribe, so like I said, we can keep supporting indie authors out there. And so until next time, thanks so much for your support, everyone, and God bless you all.